The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog just launched their new ladders game where you can win up to 500 times your entry. Plus, you can use promo code TCE SGPN to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And SGPN is also brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN, and get a $25 match deposit bonus. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. What's going on, everybody? My name is Noah Bieniek, aka 77. I'm joined alongside the co-host of the show, Johnny Venezia. And it is May. Everybody knows the deal if you've been here for the previous 3 seasons. College baseball experience ramps this thing up. That means multiple episodes per week. We're one of the premier shows on the network around this time of year for the next 2 months. And we are going to deliver all the betting content when it comes to college baseball that you guys want and need. That includes going a little bit in depth in how the weekend went. In future episodes, I will be a lot more participative, but I was in person in 3 games this weekend. And Michigan State's not an easy trip for me. It's about an hour and a half both ways. So I miss a lot of baseball when I do that trip for 3 straight days. But Johnny is here to help me out doing some of the recaps because I'm scratching the surface. Johnny watches the games. He'll give you some more in-depth thoughts. And this is where actually I think Johnny shines the most. Johnny, VTV, how you doing, my friend? On Cinco de Mayo, how'd you celebrate?
Last year I went to Jose Tejas. It was a weekend, but today I'm like, the weather is miserable out here in Jersey, and we're facing a nice little rain front, and I didn't really feel like going out and sitting down on a Monday, getting shit-faced on like 5 or 6 margaritas and having to wake up tomorrow to go to work. And so I was low-key today, worked, watching some movies, and going to go to bed and start it all over again tomorrow.
Sounds like fun because tomorrow we've got great college baseball games that I have lined up for the end of the show that we'll talk about. I went over to College Baseball Insider's matchup predictor, grabbed what their model would put the odds for at some of the games, and we'll be able to spit back and forth at each other of why or not we would be picking a team or two in some of those spots. But, Johnny, I feel like the biggest story coming out of this weekend number 12 that we just watched, Arkansas swept Texas, man. There seems to be 2 big storylines from this series that have come about, and I'm interested to hear your take. You can go one route or the other. You can either talk about Longhorns. They remain the number 1 team in the country on the D1 baseball poll. Do you agree or disagree? Or you can go ahead and start it about how good can Arkansas be?
Yeah, so obviously that was one of the biggest series of the weekend. And, I talked about this earlier with my guy Jake Hassan this afternoon because we talked about this from both angles. And I think on the Texas side, one thing about not just college baseball, but sports in general, there's too much recency bias, especially if you're a handicapper or you're even just a recreational bettor. If you're analyzing the games, if you're talking about them like we are, it's important to separate the opinions that change every week. The recency bias is poison to be a sharp sports bettor. Because now look what happens. Texas has been the number 1 team in the country for the last 2 months. They go on the road to a top 5 Arkansas team, desperate after losing 3 straight weekend series, and they get swept. And, now we're like, well, why is Texas still number 1? Well, the truth is all the rest of the top 10 teams didn't really fare that well overall. A. B, the body of work that the Longhorns have had over the course of a season shouldn't be negated after 1 weekend. And I think we can realize, Texas's way that they've been winning, it's been getting swept under the rug that their offense hasn't been as good as at least what I projected coming into the year. And yes, they lost their best player, Max Ballou, who should be back for the stretch run tournament time. But they still have talented players and they have not been contributing. But they've been getting timely hits, which has helped give them, I would say, advantages in their matchups and help them win games. But it's been done through the pitching. And now you lose Jared Spencer, the Friday night guy, one of the best pitchers in the country this year. So now every single one of their pitchers has to move up a spot. More is going to be asked of them. Then they're going to need somebody else to step up because Spencer, unlike Ballou, will not be coming back. I still think Texas is definitely in shape to make the tournament run this year. I'm not down on them. I'm not out on them. This happens. I mean, everybody has a bad weekend. And they went on the road to a top 5 Arkansas team and got swept, and they lost. Case in point. Arkansas, that was a big win. They needed it, Noah. They were really, I would say, if they had lost this Texas series, then we're probably starting to consider Arkansas on the bubble as a top 8 national seed if they lost their 4th straight series. I still don't know if I would believe in Arkansas being a legitimate World Series winner. And it's hard to say because you're like, well, what are you talking about? They're the favorite right now. They're a top 5 team, maybe top 3, depending on your opinion. I just think there's something missing with Arkansas. And I'm separating my disappointment from having them as a preseason bet last year. That was my preseason pick. And I'm separating that because their offense is way better this year than it was last year. Their team is deeper, and their pitching is still good, but I feel like they're missing the guy. As good as their pitching is, front to back, they don't have the guy. Like I think Zach Root's good. He's been solid in the SEC this year, definitely coming over from ECU. No complaints on Root, but I don't know if I'm like, Game 3 in the College World Series Finals, he's going to be the one that delivers.
Yeah, your point on Root, against the best conference in the country, teams that you're going to see in Omaha if you get there, he's got a 4.84 ERA.
Yeah, and obviously Root wouldn't be throwing on Sundays most likely anyhow. But I just, who are you going to go with? Landon Bottleshees? I don't trust it. I don't know if they have the guy. Hagen Smith obviously was the guy. And, yeah, he shit the bed against Kansas State in the regionals last year. But, the fact
I thought you were talking about just like an ace, like a number one.
Well, that too. I don't view Root as an SEC ace. We've talked about this a couple times. I think Root is a good pitcher. He's definitely good enough to be a weekend SEC guy for sure. Yeah. I think he's proven that. But if you look at the body of work throughout the year, he's not a legitimate Friday night guy in the SEC right now, other than like Mizzou or Kentucky.
Yeah,
like a legitimate contender.
Again, my apologies. Bottleshees is 6.03 SEC ERA, to your point. So, the strength of the team was like the pitching depth, and the Game 3 starter could be a hole, definitely. But I think like everything clicking this weekend, they're at home against the top team. That's like peak performance Arkansas is what I think we just saw this past weekend. And I think what we saw out of this team is a national championship front runner, not just contender. I think they're like one of the top 3 teams that I'd probably pick to win the national championship right now. I think the lineup
I'd be so mad because I would be so mad if they won it this year. If I was a year early on Arkansas because I had them last year. I mean, listen, this is just a gut feel thing for me. The numbers and the roster suggest that they are. So I completely understand it. This is not like, well, this number indicates that they would have. No, that by the numbers, by what it says on paper, yes, they are a title contender.
Yeah.
But there is something missing on this team that it's a gut feel. This is what I have to go off of because I don't care what the numbers or what the matchups, what the statistics tell you. When it comes time in June, it's a different animal. And you have to be able to just look at this team and do you think realistically that they're going to win? Can they win? Sure. But I personally don't think they will.
I thought that lineup proved a lot this weekend. Number 1 team pitching staff coming into your ballpark, and you slaughtered it. Like, not close. Back half of the bullpen, they got crushed. Like, that had been Texas's strength for much of this season, is that they just kept scratching out wins and low-scoring ball games in the SEC, no matter, the means. But Arkansas put up runs in all 3 games in impressive ways. I don't think this lineup should be questioned as much as it has been for this year. It was a big bounce back weekend. It was one that you definitely circled after Texas beats an in-state rival on a weekend. To a gambler's brain, this one worked out perfectly. The only issue is that the books never really bantered, never really wavered on Arkansas either. They were favored big in all three matchups against the number one team in the country. Arkansas was,
the home team.
I think it was minus 166 game one. They were close to minus 2.
The home team aspect definitely factors in.
It's a sign of a good team if you're able to win on the road. To Texas's credit, they've already put themselves in such a great position already this season where in the postseason they're not going to have to go on the road. But that was surely just not a great weekend overall for the Longhorns in one of the best environments in the country. And Arkansas's credit, if you continue to play like this in your final 2 weekends of the year, granted they're very tough weekends, LSU, Tennessee, but you'll be playing at home in the postseason for both the regional and the super regional. We've seen them lose at home in the NCAA tournament, but you have to like your chances in the NCAA tournament. I think the second biggest story of the weekend, Johnny, that I wrote down was Auburn's had their 2 best weekends of the year when I haven't watched a single pitch of their series. They go in sweep LSU at home when I was in Kentucky. And then they go into Tennessee and take 2-3 over the Vols when I was watching Oregon, Michigan State. Auburn's a team that I hadn't bought into much this year, and to my deficit because this team has been pretty good. And this weekend on the bump, they were pretty good. There was some drama in this series, Johnny. I don't know if you wanted to hit on that, but I'm going to let you take it wherever you want to go in this series. What did you think of the Tigers taking down Tennessee?
Definitely got to give Auburn a lot of credit. This is a team that has been awful on the road this year. The two tough tests they went at Georgia, they got swept. They went to Texas, they got swept. So coming into this series, it was going to be difficult to say if Auburn was going to have a chance to win. And I'll be 100% honest. Let's be honest. If the rain doesn't throw this entire series off, I think it might end differently.
Ooh.
Because for anybody that doesn't know, it was piss pouring all weekend up and down the East Coast. So Tennessee, I don't know if it's Tony V's call or it was the umpire's call, because in the SEC, it's the home team's coach and the crew chief to decide whether you're going to play or start a game or not in the rain.
Yeah, both coaches have a discussion. The home team has the hammer, so you make the final decision whether you start or play. Start the game to play it, but as soon as the game starts, now it's in the umpire's hands. So Dutton called the umpires out to the mound. He taps his foot into a puddle on the rubber, and the umpires, put the game in a delay.
So Tennessee went with Liam Doyle, as they always do on Fridays, and it was going to be against Samuel Dutton, who's Auburn's Friday guy. Liam Doyle goes out there. He gives up 2 runs in the top of the first, and then Samuel Dutton doesn't throw a pitch. So Liam Doyle threw 18 to 20 pitches, and now the game is obviously going to be delayed or suspended is the correct term. But that burned Liam Doyle. And, anything about a starting pitcher, you can't just, okay, here's 20 pitches, and we're going to try and bring it back in a reliever role, which is what they did. And that's what helped Tennessee take game 2 when it was 4-4 in, I want to say, the 9th or the 10th inning. Yeah. But that throws throws everything off for them, because now you have to bring in a reliever in game 1 once it resumes, and now you have to mix and match your bullpen. Whereas Liam Doyle, chances are he's going to go 6 innings because he's a 5 to 6 inning at least guy every single start. So that completely threw their entire pitching off for the whole weekend. But offensively, man, I mean, Tennessee's been struggling. It's hard to quantify, and I know we've talked about this. We talked about this last week. Yep. When I said I liked LSU to win the series against Tennessee. The offense is something you pointed out, but the bullpen for Tennessee was what I pointed out as right now their weak spot, which is something that they haven't really dealt with in the Tony V era. But, nevertheless, I think Auburn, that was a big series win. That was their only big series win. And now with their RPI boost and the fact that they close out with South Carolina and Ole Miss, there's a good chance that Auburn could end up being a top 8 national seed. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's unreasonable at this point. And if they are a top 8 seed, Auburn plays much better at home. They've struggled mightily on the road before this series. That could be a path to Omaha for the boys, because if they get a top 8 seed, what that's going to mean is inside track on the regional, and then chances are they won't be playing one of these really tough SEC or ACC teams in the supers, because if they're the 8 seed, Noah, correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably going to get matched up with the 9 seed.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah,
the 9 seed, for all we know, it could be like Oregon, or it could be Oregon State, or it could be Clemson. It's a very winnable track for the Tigers if they get this top 8 seed.
Yeah, you sparked my memory on that whole Tennessee offense thing that I brought up 2 weeks ago or whatever. In their last 11 SEC games, offense is averaging just over 5 runs. In college baseball, that's not good enough. An average offense that is a top 64 team is putting up 8 runs a game. This is just not normal for Tennessee offense, not normal for a top offense in the country like Tennessee is kind of viewed, because they just rake in non-conference games. And when they face quality pitching, they're not really the same. So, in that sample size of the last half month to month, the lineup has kind of struggled. I was impressed by Auburn's staff to a point. Like, Dutton gives you solid appearance, but Chatterton was, pitching well in midweeks, and it wasn't like mid majors that are tomato cans. I think he faced Georgia Tech in one of the 3 outings. Maybe even Troy was another team, but he had good appearances. He gets the promotion back into the starting rotation, and he pitched well against Tennessee this weekend. And that definitely is a very good sign for Auburn, because that was the number 1 spot where I kind of was doubting this Tigers team. For Tennessee, I brought up questions of, I don't even know if they have that third starter, like you were mentioning for Arkansas. Right. So Tegan Kuhns gets the, I don't know if you want to call it a start, but he goes out and starts the second inning of that first game against Auburn. And he went 5 innings, pretty, not bruised up by the Auburn offense. And that Auburn offense, for the most part, the entire weekend was scoring runs in bunches. Ike Irish had a huge weekend, big fan of his. But up and down the order, they were getting it done. And there's a couple of freshmen in that lineup that, in the preseason, I was not sure whether or not this lineup would be a true player in the SEC. All of them seem to be clicking. And Bub Terrell is probably, the biggest one of the 3. Chris Rembert, another one that's a big impact hitter in that lineup as freshmen. That's something that you can't bet on in the preseason. And their biggest weekends of the year, I'm just pissed that I haven't been able to watch to really be able to tell, how good this team may be. So Auburn fans should just root for me not to watch their games more often. I would say also Tennessee side. Well, first of all, for Auburn, I think the biggest question was the question that I've had all year was, what does their pitching depth look like after Dutton? Because even coming into the year, Samuel Dutton transfers to Auburn from LSU, who was a reliever who grabbed 30 to 40 innings a year. That's not a lot. That's not a sample size, especially as somebody that's going from a reliever in an SEC program, basically an Friday
unknown
night starter,
to a Friday night SEC starter. And then not only is he a Friday night SEC starter, he's been one of the best pitchers in the country this year. So that transition, that doesn't happen very often. That's kind of insane. But after him, it's a lot of up in the air, man. Chatterton was good in the Sunday roll for a minute earlier in the year. Cade Fisher, we know, has a ton of talent, but he hasn't really been able to put it together consistently. The bullpen is, who's going to step up? Is it this guy or is it that guy? Like, they don't have a set system of players that they can rely on out of the bullpen in the big innings. That's what I think could ultimately end up being their undoing in June. But Noah, for Tennessee, pitching wise, AJ Russell came back this weekend. He wasn't good. I think he gave up 3 or 4 earned in 2 innings. But if Russell gets back to being the guy that we know he is, that first round caliber talent, then things change a little bit for the Tennessee pitching. So, I'm not ready to panic on their starting rotation, because I think AJ Russell, who's working himself back into the rotation, is going to end up being fine. But the hitting, I don't know what the hitting's problem is. I think, maybe they're just trying to do too much. A lot of swing and miss in their lineup right now. They're not doing typically what Tennessee does, which is getting on base, putting the ball in play, and coming up with these big hits. But in terms of this weekend, Liam Doyle got into a fight. In the game two resume, I guess. And I think he was ejected. And I don't know if he's facing a suspension, but if he is, I don't know if he's going to be in jeopardy of missing the Friday night game against Vanderbilt.
So he would be suspended for 2 games as a pitcher, I believe. It would be the midweek game. And then he probably just wouldn't be able to start Friday. But if you come in relief on Sunday, are you starting Friday anyway? Maybe not. So yeah, that's interesting. He probably starts Saturday, but
well, I don't know if there's official word is if he's suspended or not. So that's probably something I have to look into. And then in that regard, then it would be JD Thompson against likely Marcus Phillips, who'd have to move up a spot.
Yeah,
but that's something to monitor.
Yeah, I have trouble personally, but do you have an explanation for still having some faith in Tennessee? They have lost 4 of their last 5 series, I believe is the stat, and they've lost 3 straight home series. It's tough to win on the road in college sports in general, and in this day and age in the SEC baseball conference, road wins aren't free. To drop 3 home series in a row is a little concerning to me.
It's hard to quantify, man. I've watched Tennessee. They look sluggish. I've watched a decent amount of Tennessee this year. They just, compared to what they were doing earlier in the season, this last month, they look sluggish. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just don't have the bat that they've had in years past. Like, they have talented players, but, last year they had Christian Moore. Christian Moore was automatic. Blake Burke, Billy Amick. I mean, these guys were automatic, dude. And the fact is they didn't just have one of them. They had 3 of them. And then that made other guys better. It made a guy like Dean Curley, an ancillary player who would come up with big production. But now a guy like Dean Curley, who is honestly being talked about as a potential first rounder coming into the year, is having to be counted on as the guy, along with Gavin Killen, who started out great and then he got hurt. And Gavin Killen hasn't really done anything since he's returned. He's been at 11 home runs, I think, since April 12th. He hasn't homered in almost a month. Then you have these freshmen that are good, but you can't rely on that. That's not sustainable. Like Levi Clark. Levi Clark's a stud. He's probably going to be another one of these first-round Tennessee stud bats that we're talking about in a couple years that had to wait his turn as a freshman, got some meaningful production, but because of the fact that he's a freshman, they typically don't get a lot of high volume of at-bats. He had to wait his turn like Christian Moore did. And in his junior year, he raked, but they just don't have the guy. Like, if you look at the Volunteers' offensive stats and their players, they have a lot of guys that are batting over 300 with 10 plus home runs with decent on base percentages.
Yeah.
So
Andrew Fisher could be the guy, but
he hasn't been. That's the thing. Like, he hasn't been. And even if you have one guy, the rest of your lineup's been in a lull. It's hard to quantify, man. Because we can look at the numbers, Noah, and say, well, in the last month as a team, they're only batting 250. It's not a real number. I'm just I'm sure you can look that up, but it's hard to quantify past that. Like the effort level, just the energy doesn't look like it's there. There's something missing from this Volunteers team in general. But one thing I do know, and one thing you know, don't ever count out Tony V's group, man. Ever.
He got ejected in that last game too, right?
He did, but don't ever count them out, because the second you think they're down, they're out, and they're weak, they're going to come up right behind you and cut your throat while you're not looking.
There we go. Before we continue on recapping the biggest action from this past weekend, I want to let you know that you can get all of our free picks and podcasts in one convenient app. Download the SGPN app in your app store today. And the college baseball experience is brought to you by Edge Boost. It's the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. There's no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards plus 100% approval for all betting deposits. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. Deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match the deposit. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the NBA playoffs, plus props for every game. For the true degens, there's the MyBookie Money Bag, where you can get a random future bet. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations. It's easy to deposit, and you get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Head over to mybookie.ag, promo code TCE SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. That is mybookie.ag, promo code TCE SGPN. And we're back here on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside the one and only Johnny V TV. We're running through some of the biggest storylines from the past weekend number 12 of college baseball. Texas A&M continues their late season surge. This was a closely fought series. They hosted LSU this weekend. A&M wins game one, game three. It was the Anthony Ianson game in game two as LSU put up a big time fight in game three to take this series. Johnny, what's your biggest takeaway from it?
So Sunday, I was watching Texas A&M because that's a team I've been very heavily invested on since the preseason. Same with LSU. So this was a great series for me just to watch, but have two teams that I was very high on coming into the year. I was sitting there Sunday after Miles Patton gave up the two-run home run to Luis Hernandez, the go-ahead. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is done. It's over. I'm sitting there drinking a bleach martini, double shot. It's done. They're going to lose a series that they very well could have won because their offense just won't stop leaving runners on base. They had left 10 runners on base to that point. Caden fucking Sorrell. Instant fucking offense. Kid might have saved the A&M season. I mean, just the clutch factor that this kid has is off the charts, man. And the truth is, what Caden Sorrell did, it's not just that he won the series for LSU or for A&M against LSU. It's not that he got them their 10th win in SEC, which is huge because typically as an SEC team, if you're at 13 wins before the SEC tournament, you're in. So that's obviously a big obstacle for A&M this year is to get in the tournament. But it boosts their RPI. So now the Aggies have wins at Tennessee, who was number one at the time, at Arkansas, who was number two at the time, and against LSU, who's currently number two coming into the weekend. That's huge for their RPI, which I believe is ahead of both Mississippi State and Florida. And now they have the inside track. And A&M has Mizzou this weekend, which hopefully they can sweep, get themselves a 13 win, so they're good. And then they close the season at top 10 Georgia the final week. So if they could take the series at Georgia, they'll put them at 15 wins. And now you're looking at 15 wins, and that shouldn't even be a doubt of whether they're getting in or not. But it was so big for morale, dude. I mean, they haven't really had many guys step up this year. Jace Lavalette, the guy who was supposed to be the preseason number one overall pick for the draft this year, has looked like a shell of himself. He's not really come up clutch a lot this year. It looks like for some reason he needs to make some mechanical adjustments with his approach and his swing. But, if he gets hot, man, that's contagious. That's going to carry out through the rest of the team. And truthfully, if Lavallette's hot and he's bringing it for everybody else, A&M is going to be a really dangerous team come June.
Yeah, I like where you took it for the A&M side, because my large-scale takeaway from the series here is that I just don't know LSU's offense is going to be consistent enough for us come the final month of this season. In their last 4 SEC series, kind of the same thing as Tennessee. Include that Tennessee series from just 2 weeks ago, LSU Tennessee, but they're averaging 5.1 runs per game against quality pitching. LSU's got a really good starting pitching duo, just as Tennessee does, and Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. You can win a lot of games with those two. You can win a super regional with just those two. And then Kason Evans in this series was not great. He's a freshman. That was his first road start. I think I like him as probably the 3rd starter. Chase Shores coming out of the pen. I thought Shores looked fine and pretty, honestly good in his appearance in this series. I think the rotation needs to be Anderson, Ianson, give Evans the start this upcoming weekend against Arkansas. That's a big time, another big start for him. But it's at home, and I think your guy, if he's going to be the guy, should be able to throw better at home in his 3rd start in his career, and hopefully he turns into that 3rd starter that you can feel comfortable in. Because if you don't have 3 starters and the offense is not, this offense isn't Tennessee's offense, so it's not like they performed at one level in the beginning of the season and they're kind of slumping here right now during this point of the year. Because Jared Jones had been cold up until last weekend. I didn't watch a whole lot pitch by pitch of what he was able to do this weekend against Texas A&M, against Texas A&M. But it's a lot of hit for average and not a whole lot of power. And in college baseball right around now, it's hard to string along those hits, but the swings that'll get you 1 run, 2 runs in just one swing is oftentimes what wins you games in college baseball, like it or not. So, and I think that has been lacking a little bit for this LSU team. He does have 16 pops on the year. I'm not putting it all on Jared Jones. I'm just saying as a whole, up and down that lineup, that's kind of where I have some questions right now, is that clutch hitting who can come up with the home run when they need it.
So as a team now, they have 75 home runs, which is solid. But Jared Jones is the only one that's in double figures at home runs. You have Danny Dickinson.
There's a couple that are close, right?
8. Milam's got 9. But, truth is that we do this every year. And I've fallen victim to it. I mean, I've pointed out flaws on teams that this is why I don't think they will be able to win. And despite a whole year of them struggling in this one thing, for example, LSU 2023. I mean, I was huge on Wake Forest that year. Preseason, I was fully invested in Wake Forest, and they were the best team all season.
Both you and I.
So the reason why I didn't think LSU was going to win was because after Paul Skeens, they didn't really have a lot of reliable pitching, whether that was in the rotation or as the bullpen, because Ty Floyd was a lot of hit or miss, more miss than hit. And then he had a couple big starts in the College World Series, but their bullpen was awful. Like the whole year, their bullpen was terrible. But then they put together one good month. And really, their regional was a layup, so they didn't really need him. Paul Skeens ended up, I don't know if he went complete game against, I think it was Tulane.
Yeah, complete game Tulane.
He went 8 or 9 innings.
Oregon State was there, but they weren't as good that year as any.
No, they weren't good. But they ended up putting together a couple good weeks in the bullpen. And, so we've seen this. And we're pointing out every team has flaws right now. There's no team that I would say is truly head and shoulders above everybody else. Like 2023 was Wake Forest. Last year was Tennessee. Like we could legitimately say the last 2 years, there's been teams that were head and shoulders above the rest of the field.
I'd even throw last year, like Texas A&M was head and shoulders, I believe, over the field.
Okay.
It was those two.
But we don't have that this year. For most of the year, for till about, I would say, week 8, Tennessee was no doubt, in my opinion, the best team. They were the team to beat, along with Texas and LSU. Those were the 3 teams head and shoulders above everybody else. But now it's kind of regressed to the mean. It's very even. But truth be told, man, this is the kind of stuff that can be turned around in a postseason, especially when you're so well coached. So where we're seeing, okay, LSU's not hitting for a ton of power. Their offense is a little bit hit or miss. Texas A&M, their offense has been more miss than hit. Tennessee's offense hasn't been great, and their Sunday roll is in question with a lot of their bullpen. That's stuff like that can click very easily for teams like this that have been playing elite competition all year and have that postseason pedigree.
The Florida State Clemson series from afar looked really, really fun. Game 1 goes extra innings, was crazy in that one. Both Canuck went solid 5 or 6 innings from, like I said, from afar. I was at a game, so I don't have stats in front of me or off the top of my dome. Jamie Arnold went really well. And then both teams were able to get to some of the top options out of the pen, which was really impressive. Malstedt comes in for a save opportunity, and for honestly 2 or 3 weeks now, he hasn't been A+ sharp Malstedt. He gives up. You're calling timeout. Johnny V's calling time.
Okay. I hate to interrupt you. I hate to, but I watch the series very closely. And let me say, I was very big on Clemson coming into the year. They were a College World Series team for me.
I know you.
Preseason, I didn't have Clemson to win the conference, but midseason, I gave them out on RotoWire. I'm like, listen, this is a team that has a favorable schedule for the most part. They're a good team. They can definitely win. I think there's a lot of weaknesses throughout the conference. So they lose. They get swept at NC State, which is brutal because I don't think NC State's good. And I think Miami, who is red hot right now, but I think we would both agree Miami's not real contenders. They're just on a heater right now. They put a stop to NC State's hot streak. Now you have Clemson, who goes into FSU for a huge series. I was on Clemson 150 plus 154, and they're commanding the whole game. Aiden Canuck was pretty good. And Lucas Malstedt comes in. For context, it was 4-2 Clemson, bottom 9, 2 outs, runner on third, right? FSU brings in some slapdick who has barely gotten any at-bats. He gets a lucky slap double down the left field line. Okay, it's 4-3. Lucas Malstedt, who's been the best closer in the country this year, gives up a ground ball to third base. Josh Pano, I don't know what the fuck he was doing. He gives it a little Olay off to the side. It skips past his glove, goes into left field. Game's tied. So that's a play you should make. And then furthermore, it goes into extras. FSU walks it off in the bottom of the 11th. Again, Josh Pano misses a play at third base. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, it was a relay that the runner would have been hosed at home. And he missed the relay, if I'm not mistaken.
The throw was good from left, from
No.
Listy. It was on the mark.
What was it, the relay as the game winner?
That one got through Pano's glove. That one got through Pano's glove. Listy, the left fielder,
that's what it was.
Home.
That's what. Yes. Okay. So honestly, he might have been out anyway at home, but it got past Pano's. Safe, it got past Pano's glove again. Play. So it got. So the big moment, it got past his glove twice. So that's why they lost a game that they were in command of the whole way. Then they come back, they win the game 2, and then they get obliterated in game 3. So yeah, right now we're looking at Clemson a little bit different. FSU took the series against Clemson. If Pano makes a play, and Clemson takes a series, we're looking at them through very different eyes right now. Very different eyes. Because they got boat raced in the Sunday game.
Yeah, that's kind of been the big
right?
Clemson.
But you're looking at it through different eyes. Because now it's FSU won the series. They look really good. They found a way to come back.
No, I wasn't going there. I said crazy. It was a crazy series because game 1 was really close and tight and decided in extras. Game 2 was really close and tight, and Clemson was able to win it. The game 3 was really crazy with Florida State jumping out to what was like a 9-10 early lead.
10.
Clemson makes it 11-9 ball game, and then Florida State then run rules them in the following inning, 20-9. No, that's not where I was going with Florida State, because I think that bullpen has a lot of issues, but I think their weekend rotation has less question marks than Clemson's.
Yeah.
Titsworth is fine as game 2. They don't have game 3. We've known this for a while, that Clemson has dropped these third games in the weekend series. And they have not found that solution yet. So I don't know what it is, but honestly, at the beginning of the year, you have your weekend rotation was probably going to be Aiden Knock, Dane Moeller, who was a freshman who went down with a preseason injury, and then the Seton Hall transfer that they were really high on was going to be in the rotation. I think his last name was Hillen. And it just didn't work out with 2 of those. So now you're down to Darden and Lagernick. They didn't really pan out this year. And you're on the wave number 3, which has been Titsworth and BJ Bailey. So the Florida State side, I thought they had really clutch hitting the entire weekend. Max Williams had a big game 1. So the offense has been good, really good. Starting rotations, I think, solid. The bullpen's not good enough.
No.
And yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm running the window to bet Florida State to win the national championships after the series. No, that's not my take.
Honestly, truth is too, like, I think Wes Mendez is shaky as a Sunday guy right now. He's got good potential, but he's had some really bad outings. He's had some good outings.
Yep.
I think personally FSU was one of my huge tickets last year. I think their window, I think their shot was last season. The fact that they couldn't get it done, it's very, very rare that they're gonna go back to the College World Series and end up winning it. I think their team was way better last year than it is this year.
Yeah, and they're like a Texas A&M where they've got 3 lefties in that rotation, and if you run into a team in the Super Regional where they can clobber left-handed pitching, your season might be done. So it's just the luck of the draw to get to Omaha there with Florida State. Your thoughts overall on last year, Omaha? It was 4 SEC versus 4 ACC. Right now, I look at the top of the SEC, and I see teams that I like a whole lot more than the top of the ACC right now. Are you in agreement, and where would you kind of put to the bar of where you would slot Florida State and maybe Clemson into the SEC standings?
I mean, right now I still think I'm holding out hope that UNC is the best team in the ACC. They do this weird thing where they start their conference schedule a week earlier than everybody else, and then this weekend they're playing Slapdick State, which I'm not really a fan of, but
exam week. So
exam week, but not everybody had exam week. But listen, I think the ACC's got a lot of good teams. I just wouldn't categorize them as having any great teams.
Title contenders.
What?
Title contenders.
Yeah, but like there's one team in the ACC I'm like, oh yeah, they're legitimate shots to win it all. Like you can make a case for a couple of the schools, but you look in the SEC, it's like, okay, wow, like there's legitimately 5 teams that can win. And if A&M gets hot, they have absolutely as good of a chance as anybody.
Yeah.
I think the SEC is probably going to end up winning it again. I could definitely see 5, maybe 6 SEC teams getting into Omaha, depending on the draw. Obviously, the draw matters the most. That's the Bible. That's the gospel. And how that matches up. I was talking about it again this afternoon, and I would say outside of the SEC, ACC, I don't really see that many teams in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the Sun Belt that I'm truly like fawning over. I would say the best non-SEC ACC team is probably Oregon, and I still think Oregon has some issues.
Yeah,
but
we're going to talk about those in a minute.
Yeah, or like Oregon State, man. I'm not sold on Oregon State. I really wasn't coming into the year. I felt like their team was better last year. Oregon State's got some dogs, but all year I've been saying they're a top-heavy group where they rely on 4 bats and like 2 pitchers to get it done. And if they don't deliver, then they're in trouble. I think UC Irvine's good, but what happens when you have to go on the road to an Arkansas, or you have to go to a Florida State? Like any of the other Big 12 teams. I don't buy West Virginia. I think Arizona State's interesting. They probably have the highest ceiling if their bullpen delivered, because their offense is really good and they have good starting pitchers. Arizona, I don't really believe in. TCU, I think, is very limited. Anybody else in the Big Ten, like UCLA? UCLA is maybe win a region. Possibly if you get a good draw, they win a super regional and somehow getting in. But I don't really see it there, man. Like even Coastal Carolina, I would say, is maybe somewhere else that I would consider, because in recent years they haven't had legitimate starting pitching, and this is the first time in a long time that they've had it. They have 3 legit weekend starters right now, the way it seems. Their offense isn't anywhere near as good as it used to be, but it's still good. It's just not like top 10 in the country dominant. But other than that, man, I think it's probably Oregon is the best team outside of SEC, ACC.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm out on Oregon now. After seeing them in person this weekend, I was really excited for this series. I had Oregon at Michigan State circled from the very preseason when I was kind of making out what my travel schedule may look like. On the 11.7 show that I also do, like, it's a lot more positive and we focus on player storylines and whatnot. I did mention what I think is a huge weakness of this team on that show as well. But on this show, like, what's the edge that you're going to find against the market? With Oregon, it's against left-handed pitching. They are brutal against left-handed pitching. 759 OPS, 238 average against lefties, compared to a 998 OPS, 311 average against righties. They're a really good fusion of physicality and finesse. The top of that lineup can really bang. They've got huge dudes that you will not find on a diamond in other places. Mason Neville, currently the country's leader in home runs, I still believe. He's a sturdy fella. Jacob Walsh looks like a football player. Dominic Hellman is a beast, like almost Hawaiian, Samoan looking, like skin tone, facial hair. He's got it all. Very fits the bill of the last name of Hellman. And then the guy that's really important to this lineup that really keeps it honest against left-handed pitching is Drew Smith. Against righties, he's been good. 333, 927 OPS. He crushes lefties. 391, 1022. But up and down this lineup, beginning with Neville, who bats leadoff for this team, 229, 800 OPS versus lefties. Who is batting number 2 in that lineup is Dominic Hellman. He's a right-handed stick, batting 222, 883 against lefties. Then we get to Jacob Walsh, who's a left-handed power hitter, 250, 804 versus lefties. All these guys rake against righties, but the top of that lineup against lefties, it's rough. And then even getting a little bit further down, Anson Arrows, below 100 batting average against lefties, virtually no pop. I did watch him hit a home run as a right-handed swing. He's a switch hitter against a lefty this weekend. But when you face Joseph Jurwa in game 1, they only had 2 hits. When Jurwa has his A-plus stuff, he had 2 rough starts prior to Oregon. But when he has his A-plus stuff, he's going to go out there and get Michigan State a W. He's done that a lot this season. It's hard to beat. But they threw 2 other relievers this weekend. George Vibrock, who averages 83 miles an hour with his fastball. He throws it 58% of the time. And Garrett Brewer, who touches 89 regularly, but that's his average. 69% fastball from him. That's a huge hole because you look around the country, the SEC's littered with left-handed pitching this year. For whatever reason, this is the year of the southpaw. SEC's got plenty of them. The Big Ten's even got really good ones. And Grayson Grunzell, who had a great outing for Oregon. Jerwa of Michigan State, who just shut that lineup down. Cade Obermueller, who they're going to see in 2 weeks. Like, really quality lefties in this conference, too. This is a big hole that I don't think they're going to be – if they get a draw that – takes advantage of this. I don't know if they can even be a super regional team because that bullpen has been a question mark for this season. I didn't really even get to see it. Michigan State didn't really drag him into the water, into the deep water. Grinzel goes 8 strong, complete game. He didn't even get to see the 9th because Michigan won it in the top of the 9th. Colin Clark, 6 strong, only 3 earned. Jason Wrights, who got moved into the weekend rotation after being moved to the bullpen in the middle of the year. He's now made 4 straight starts, really quality against Michigan State, 6.1. They've got plenty of pieces in that lineup, but there's just a massive hole that I can't get over.
All right. Well, in all fairness, I understand that completely. And that's a valid point because, like you said, they're going to see a lot of lefties the further you advance because there's just a fucking ton of them. And a lot of them.
And they play matchups.
And a lot of them are dominant this year. Like, there's not just like average lefties. You look at all the top arms in the country this year, outside of like Kyson Witherspoon, they're all lefties. So, definitely fair point. But who else would you say if you're picking a team? I mean, Oregon in general looks like the most complete team top to bottom out of anybody else in the Big Ten, Big 12, Sun Belt in terms of making or having the ability to make a deep run. Because, again, like this lefty thing, yeah, that does matter. But if Grinzel and the rest of their starting pitching with Clark and Reitz and their bullpen ends up being solid and, their offense is able to do enough, they could find a way. I mean, they've been doing that a lot this year.
Yeah.
So who would be your team?
You want to even do Omaha 8?
What?
Do you want to even just announce a mid-season Omaha 8? Is that what we want to do right now? Because
I'm not moving off what I have. I ride till the ship. I mean, I'll add another team as hey, this is my team 9, team 10. But again, it all depends on what the draw is. So, like I said, if a team like Auburn is a top 8 national seed and they get an easy regional, and then their super regional, if they advance, would end up being, I don't know, for instance,
yeah,
like a UC Irvine or somebody like that they get to host, then it'd be a realistic thought that they could make it. But I mean, the team that I think is most in question right now is because they got to make the tournament is Virginia. Virginia I was really high on, and I don't really know what the hell happened to them this year. I mean, they've been struggling on a lot of fronts. I mean, I know a lot of you guys aren't really believing in UVA to make it. I think UVA is going to get in. It hurt RPI and the ability to rack up some wins for them not to be able to play Florida State because of the tragedy on the Tallahassee campus. But I still think they're going to find a way to get in. Like if Virginia's 15 wins in the ACC, how do you not get in?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if this ACC is strong enough to warrant a 500 record in the conference to get in. To answer your question that you originally threw at me, I think my favorite team outside of the SEC and ACC is West Virginia.
Ugh.
Yeah, I just don't think it's clear that we have quality teams outside of those 2 conferences again this year.
I don't know, man. I mean, West Virginia is just
their lineup rakes, dude. They rake.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? And we've been hearing this every week about WVU. Oh, they're so good. And on this very show preseason, I think I had West Virginia as, I want to say maybe the 7th team in the ACC, which is respectable considering, that means they're top half. And they lost J.J. Weatherholt. You lose Derek Clark. You lose a lot of other key pieces that they've had. And Yeah, like listen, they
Yeah.
were going to be able to hit. They had enough pitching to sustain, but like and really to make a title run. The truth is, West Virginia, if you look at all the Power 4 conferences, there's not many teams that have had an easier schedule than West Virginia in conference. They've played one legitimately good team, which was Arizona, who I don't really even think is that good, but was top 25, and they lost to them. They haven't beaten a legitimate opponent all year. And like, yeah, we could say, well, that's what good teams do. They beat who's on their schedule. They beat the bad teams.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That helps them in the regular season. But when they have to go on the road, they have to go face an Arkansas, or they have to go face a UNC, or they have to face a Texas. How does that fare for them?
Yeah, you're not wrong, but I feel like we were saying that the exact same message about this team last year because they didn't have JJ Weatherholt for 6 weeks of the year.
But they had him in postseason, and they had Derek Clark, who turned into
they drew the regional death. Not many people were taking Dub V out of Arizona, sorry, they did it. And yet they did it. And this lineup is raking. Like I said, sure, the competition hasn't been great the entire year, not just in Big 12 play, but non-conference. They did play road series, but those teams, it turns out, haven't been quality. But, dude, against left-handed pitching, they are crushing. And against right-handed pitching, they're good enough. Their splits there. I think there's talent up and down that lineup. There's 6 guys that are hitting over 300. Kyle West is a stud. I like Jace Reinhardt. Sam White's good. And Griffin Kern's been that steady lefty in the Friday role that is very, very similar to what Derek Clark did for them last year.
I mean, if West Virginia, if they keep going, they're probably going to host. They finish with K-State,
Kansas,
which they could lose both realistically.
Yeah, they could.
I mean, I think if we're looking at West Virginia realistically, if they host a regional and they get an SEC team, like what happens if Texas A&M goes to West Virginia? And
they're not, but
A&M's rolling. Like, what if what if West Virginia is?
I would take A&M to win that regional.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's I think 12 to 15 quality teams in those two conferences, and then we're pulling at straws to name a team. I probably would have said UC Irvine prior to this weekend too.
I mean,
they lose that series in rough fashion to UC San Diego. It's their first weekend that they really look bad. Do you give them a pass like Texas? It really,
yes.
It really like makes me second guess it. And UC Irvine would probably be my choice. Like had I not been put on the spot, but
all right. Well, what did I say at the beginning of the show when we were talking about Texas? You can't let recency bias affect your opinion of a team that you've seen their whole body of work and it's been positive all year. Irvine is a team I've been talking about for 2 months in regards to, hey, who's a team that can sneak up on you? And every Monday I go on with my boy PJ Glasser, and this week was Jake Hassan, and I talk about different teams to look out on that many people might not know about. And Irvine always comes up because ever since they moved Riley Kelly into the Friday role and they moved Trevor Hansen into the Saturday role, their season's turned around because their offense is good. They have a great bullpen. Ricky Ojeda has been one of the most unsung key bullpen pieces in the country this year. But the problem was going to be what happens when they have to go on the road and face and they have to face a top SEC or ACC team in a super regional because Irvine is in almost no fashion going to be a top 8 national seed. They're still probably got a good chance to host a regional. Like I think they're going to win the Big West. So let's say they host a regional and they're a 14 seed, right? Then you have to, if you win your region, assuming that the 3 seed wins their region, the 3 seed might realistically be a Florida State, or it might be in Arkansas, or it might be in LSU. Then you have to go on the road to that environment to face a level of competition you are not familiar with, and you have to go beat them. So that was the only question that I had. The only possible scenario that I thought Irvine could make the run was if maybe one of those if that top 3 team got upset in their own region, like Arkansas did. And, they faced a beatable 2 or 3. And then it broke like that for them. But looking at it as is, if they had to go on the road and beat an LSU at the box in a super regional, that's why I have trouble backing UC Irvine.
Yeah, you make solid points on both pros and cons for the Anteaters. I think very similarly of Coastal Carolina. They're probably a mid-major host, a quality team outside of the SEC, ACC that I would say their Omaha chances are not high, but also I could see them doing it with a path through Conway. A team that their hosting picture may have gotten a little bit slimmer after this weekend was UCLA. They dropped 2 of 3 at USC in Irvine. This weekend, I don't know if you caught any eyes on this series, but USC jumps into the top 25 this week on D1 Baseball's poll. Game 1 goes to UCLA, and USC takes 2 and 3.
Yeah, good for USC, man. USC is a team I think we've talked about the last couple of years. I'm a little surprised that they're having as good of a season as they are, considering the turnover in their lineup. But Ethan Hedges has been amazing. Caden Hunter's been solid. Caden Aoki has been a lot better than what his numbers suggest. They're well coached. Stank is a good coach out there, and I think a lot of it helps when you shift these Pac-12 teams to the Big Ten, because now they're playing a Big Ten schedule. And it's not really a coincidence that basically every team that was in the Pac-12 last year is at the top of the board in the Big Ten. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's why they're having a better year. And, it's fine, but I'd be surprised if USC is a host. I mean, chances are, this Big Ten picture is a little bit crowded right now. Iowa's 21-6, which still makes no sense to me. UCLA 17-7. And then you have Oregon and USC tied at 16-8. So I think realistically speaking, Oregon is the most likely team to host out of that group. I think a lot of it has to do with the pedigree as well of them as a team, that they've had a lot of success in the tournament the last couple of years. They made it to a super regional 2 years ago. They made it to a super regional last year. So I think that's probably what's going to end up happening in the Big Ten. But Pac-12, man, they moved over to the Big Ten, and that's why.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Andrew Johnson over the weekend.
Yep.
He's been a key relief piece for the Trojans this year as well. USC has won 8 straight weekend series now. You put them into a super regional-like format, and that's a team that will have some confidence going into it with the 1-2 punch, like you mentioned, of Hunter, Aoki, and a lineup that seems to be clicking right now. So, I thought that was a really impressive weekend by USC, because I did not pick them to win it there. And speaking of teams that I did not pick to win a specific series, how about Miami? A 4th straight sweep in the ACC. You mentioned it earlier. We were going to come back to it. They take down NC State. We have different beliefs on what NC State is capable of. But what have you noticed about this second half surge from the Hurricanes that we've seen so far this year?
I think their schedule has been relatively favorable for the most part. But I think, honestly, they've been relying on their guy, man. Danny Cuvée. This kid's been playing really, really good baseball, 341 average, 12 homers, 64 RBIs, and he's been swinging a really hot bat as of late, man. I mean, he's got 4 straight multi-hit games dating back to the game 2 against Boston College. I mean, the kid's been absolutely on fire. He's got 3 home runs in his last 3 games. I mean, he's the catalyst of this team. But the pitching's been really good. Brian Walters, since the move to the bullpen, fulfilling the role that his big brother used to dominate a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was tremendous. So I think they're doing fundamental baseball, man. And they have a couple of their big guys improving. And, our boy Danny Cuvée should be a top 10 pick next year because Miami really hadn't been a good team in a couple years, man, since Yohani Morales literally picked this fucking team up in 23 and carried them to the NCAA tournament. And now, they're getting some more profile. And listen, a team like Miami, and yeah, Ryan Hasty said Miami should be great with all that Cuban talent in state. Miami, with the amount of money that they have, should never be a bad team. They have basically unlimited resources. They should never be a bad team. But I mean, listen, bro, they're playing good baseball right now, and it's a collective effort. It's pitching, it's hitting, it's timely hitting, and you got to tip your cap, man. I mean, I got to be honest. Miami's one of these teams that if they went into a regional that's kind of up for grabs, wouldn't be surprised to see them steal it.
Yeah, they could. They have the pitching to do it. Hughes on game 1 for them has been incredible this stretch. He's carrying a 3.68 ERA right now the entire season. He's been the dog for this pitching staff. He's leading the team with 66 innings pitched. The next closest is AJ Siskar, who got one of those promotions. The other one was Tate DeRias, 2 freshmen who are now in this weekend rotation, and the entire identity and just kind of the vibe of this pitching staff totally changed after that move because coinciding, Walters left that game 3 starting spot to now be that shutdown reliever that they have confidence in. Also, like Will Smith out of the pen's been really good lately too. They have about 6 guys that they are throwing out there confidently in a weekend to win games. But I go back to this, like, yes, it's notable that they made a rotation change, and now all of a sudden this has turned into a very, very good pitching staff. But the way that they started the year, right? They get 2 weekend series wins, but you go at Florida, series loss. They drop the series to UConn, which has aged much better. You drop a series at Wake Forest, which honestly hasn't aged too well, but we know what Wake Forest was capable of, and they did have a healthy Ethan Conrad for that weekend. And then they lose a series to Florida State. That's a tough 4-week stretch that a lot of teams might have the same kind of reaction to. And then all of a sudden after that too, at North Carolina. So that 5-week stretch was really difficult. They win the series against Pitt. They win the series against Duke. And then all of a sudden they sweep Georgia Tech. They sweep BC. They sweep NC State. And this is a team that's rolling right now and really figured it out, on both sides of the plate to a point, because Danny Cuvé's hit, really well last weekend, really well, honestly, over the last month. But the offense has gotten better during this stretch. It's still, like, big picture wise this season, it's not a great offense. It's below average, honestly, across the country. But Miami has the pitching to do real damage in the postseason that could be pretty exciting. This Miami team, there is a fan base there that if they tap into and they are showing that they're able to win, and if they host the regional, all of a sudden things can get really exciting there. Johnny, we skipped over one, I thought, notable SEC series. I want to go back to it just because of how game 3 ended. Vanderbilt completed a big comeback on Alabama. They were down 7-2. Any thoughts on Vandy escaping the weekend against Alabama? Now that sets up a big time in-state series with Tennessee.
I think Vanderbilt, this is kind of who they've been. That's why that they've been very successful. They've done it with pitching, and they've done it with clutch, timely hitting. Connor Fennell was great since he got moved into the rotation before that game against Alabama. J.D. Thompson's been amazing, and Cody Backer's been good. They have an elite closer, Miller Green, with a great setup guy in Sawyer Hawks. So they have a lot of pitching, and that's really been what they've been riding all year. But like Auburn, they're great at home and they're terrible on the road. They haven't had a meaningful road win all year, and the only home loss they have was against Arkansas. And really, like, I remember we talked about after they swept Georgia, that put them on the map kind of for the year. And I mean, listen, I respect Vanderbilt, but after that Georgia sweep, which was their first meaningful series win, they went from like 16th ranked to like 7th ranked, being talked about as a potential national hosting seed, which I didn't understand because they had one series win, and now it kind of got brought back to life. But listen, I think Vanderbilt's a team that can win a region. I think when J.D. Thompson's pitching like he has been, and he pitches the way he does at home, he's a tough guy to beat. And they have depth in their pitching, but their offense is so timely, dude. And that's why I think Vandy's interesting. I don't know if they have enough offensive oomph to carry it throughout the month of June. And in all fairness, the fact that they can't really go out and win on the road is usually not very good.
Right with you. Actually, I agree with everything that you said about this Vandy team. I want to finish off the weekend recap portion of this episode with the Big 12. I was fascinated by this weekend because when West Virginia drops game 1, a door opens of opportunity, right? Coming into the weekend, you had Kansas, who was in second place in this conference. You had TCU, who's tied for second place in this conference. And both of them go out there and lose the weekend series. West Virginia righted the ship. They win the series. They take 2 of 3 to finish that out the weekend against Texas Tech. Cincinnati sweeps Kansas in Lawrence. Arizona takes down TCU. They take 2 of 3 there. West Virginia, like I said, they won 2 of 3 against Texas Tech. Arizona, because of virtue of Kansas dropping a series, TCU dropping a series, Arizona State wins 2 of 3 in Baylor. They climb up to second place in the Big 12 standings, and now there's a clump. It's Arizona, TCU, Kansas, and Kansas State, all kind of 4 or 5 games out of first place. West Virginia has a 3-game lead now, and Arizona State is in a solo second, 3 games back. Anywhere that you want to go in the Big 12, what'd you find most interesting from this past weekend?
How about my Arizona State Sun Devils, man? I think that was big for them because, as you know, they were my preseason Big 12 winner. They have Houston this weekend, which hopefully they win, and then they finish at OK State, which is still going to be a tough series. But West Virginia plays Kansas the final week of the regular season, and those two teams can beat the shit out of each other. So Arizona State is firmly in the mix. Kansas, that was a bad loss, dude. I mean, Kansas was red hot. Yeah, like we know Cincinnati's along that Texas Tech line where they're not necessarily good, but they're no slouch. They're a tough team to face. And you get swept at home when you're in the midst of like battling for a Big 12 crown, which could ultimately mean that you may end up hosting. That's a bad look. Otherwise, I mean, TCU, Arizona, the series was close. Those teams to me aren't super impressive. I mean, they're very reliant on a few guys to kind of carry the load. And when that doesn't happen, then the whole thing goes awry. You already know what I feel about West Virginia. And honestly, I think the Arizona State, dude, they've let me down a lot this year. But there's a reason why I like them coming into the season. I think their starting pitching is really good. There's a lot of variance to this team. They're like the Cincinnati Reds of college baseball. When it clicks and it's all going right, they're dangerous. Like I think when you look at ASU, they're a team that can absolutely sneak into a College World Series if it all goes according to plan. If their bullpen can hold up, I don't see any reason why it's a team that can't make that run. I really believe that. Arizona State is good. It's just the problem is they have a low floor. And when it's that low floor happens, it's ugly.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Cincinnati over the weekend. They pummeled Kansas's bullpen. Nathan Taylor goes out there and shoves and gets them that game 1 win. And in what was slated as a pitcher's duel between Taylor and Vagley. But just over the course of this series, it just felt like Cincinnati had the clutch pitching, and Kansas in game 3 definitely was able to put up runs. But I felt like they, in spots, could have had bigger innings than they had. Carrington Cross, big time weekend. Game 2, he was unbelievable with 3 home runs, accounted for double-digit RBI. That's a kid that I've loved from the get-go this year. But yeah, I was impressed by Arizona State to be able to take advantage of carnage that happened in front of them in the Big 12 standings, and now they're in a pretty favorable position. So on the flip side of this episode, we're going to go through some of the biggest games on this Tuesday midweek slate, one of the final midweek slates of the year in college baseball. There are some quality matchups that I pulled some face value odds, and we're going to do some quick hitters. But first, the college baseball experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog just launched their new game ladders on their Pick'em platform. You can win up to 500x your entry watching your favorite players climb the ladder. Sign up today with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. And Rhythm and SGPN have teamed up, and SGPN has loved Rhythm's platform. They are your home for AI-backed picks and props. You can dominate the NBA playoffs and MLB prop market with Rhythm. Building your own model is simple and easy on their platform, and Rhythm knows that you'll love it. So that's why they're including that 7-day free trial. Here's something that is a great tool for you all to use. They have amazing deals going on right now. 25% off monthly subscription with promo code SGPN25. You can also get a 50% off annual subscription with promo code SGPN50. That is Rhythm, RITHMM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50, where you can get your 7-day free trial today is going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Rhythm. Let it ride. And we're back here on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, with Johnny Venezia. We're running through Tuesday's biggest games of the card. No, we don't have betting odds. We just don't ever get betting odds the night before any games in college baseball other than your Thursday night 3-pack and Friday night. But we got to make content somehow. And I do think that people still enjoy this. Over on our friends, College Baseball Insiders, they have a really cool matchup predictor where if you just pit 2 teams together, it'll put out face value odds of what their model would project the price to be. This is without knowing pitchers. We'll see a lot of pitcher projections tomorrow morning from a lot of these teams' websites. But like I said, 9 quality matchups that we're going to run through here on today's show. Quite a few of them begin at 6 p.m. Vanderbilt is at Louisville. The matchup predictor has this at 146 in favor of Vanderbilt. To me, I think that Louisville's offense poses a big-time threat to midweek pitching of Vandy. At home, Cardinals off a series loss against Notre Dame. That would be where I look, Johnny.
Heard me say I don't like Vanderbilt on the road, and that's not just in the SEC this year. I mean, they're 8-7 away in general. I think Louisville at home is a sneaky matchup, especially if they're getting plus money there against Vanderbilt, who's really not liable to throw some of their big arms, so they can get some of their younger guys or more inexperienced guys some work here.
Yeah, putting you on the spot in this one, but it's a very quality game. You got High Point, who's probably going to come out of the Big South, and Charlotte, who's been really feisty this season in the non-conference. The Panthers are plus 135 here as the team that probably wants this game more. But Charlotte, quality team, they're at home against the Panthers. Tough pick for me. I would probably take High Point at plus money as well, but probably a game that I'm not going to be betting. I am very thin on midweeks just because a lot of them can be unpredictable, high-scoring matchups. Johnny, High Point at Charlotte. Your thoughts?
Assuming, it all depends if the line's actually accurate. This is based on a number of different variables, and you really don't know because we might make it something, but the book doesn't understand that. So we've seen a lot of wrong lines for years.
The book is trying to balance the money that they will take on each side, so they don't want to be lopsided. So.
I wouldn't bet this game in general, but I would take plus money. Whoever's getting the plus money as a dog.
I agree. Midweeks and some mid-majors tend to be tough outs. Let's say Clemson visits Coastal Carolina. Very interesting game here, and how Bakich is going to handle it with just 2 weeks remaining in the ACC, and they've fallen quite a bit in the ACC regular season standings. How much does he value that regular season title? What kind of pitching will he dispose of in this Coastal Carolina game? Because that seems to be the biggest question for this Tigers team right now. And Coastal Carolina has been really quality.
Let me guess. Hold on.
You're going to be off. You're going to be off.
Why is Coastal the dog?
Yeah, they're
really?
a big dog. Yeah,
I would have made Coastal minus 140 in this. They play much better at home. Their pitching's been a little bit more balanced for the midweek. And I got to be honest, Clemson throughout the years had a really good pitching advantage against any team they faced. Their bullpen was really good, but now like with the struggles, Ethan Darden, who was super hit or miss, but now his removal of the rotation, it's been like this BJ Bailey, or it's been
BJ Bailey was the midweek starter for the first 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And now he's a weekend guy.
And it's been Drew Titsworth now in the rotation. So it's really unpredictable. I like Coastal here. I think, and Clemson, man, they're kind of reeling. Fundamentally, Clemson has a lot of issues that I don't like. They ran themselves out of an inning. They ran themselves out of the same inning twice on that Friday game against FSU. They probably ran themselves out of an inning 3 times altogether in that one game. Their fundamentals are off, which is strange from an Eric Bakich team. I don't like the fundamentals and the execution that I'm seeing from Clemson. You put that along with some of the struggles that they've had on the mound, which is new as of a couple weeks ago. I think Coastal Carolina at home plus money is definitely where I'd be going.
Yep. And Hasty saying it's got to be a big a get up spot for Coastal. You don't get many of these games, and in the short sample size that you don't get many of these games, you have to do well in these, because Coastal right now sitting probably like a 11, 10, maybe 12, 13 seed nationally. Like if you lose this game against Clemson, that's another opportunity. It's a quad 1 team that the committee uses against you to possibly get another SEC host. You want to win these, and honestly, you need to win these because you want to play at home in the postseason. College Baseball Insider's matchup predictor has it at plus 225 for Coastal Carolina.
No
I think that's absurd.
That's not. No.
I would list this personally, Coastal Carolina plus 120. You mentioned like minus 140 for the shots. I think that Clemson would be a popular pick. Books aren't going to get hammered in a midweek, but I don't think that they want to take, Clemson money.
Dude, no way Coastal is going to be plus 220.
No.
There's no way. There's no way.
I agree with you.
I mean, it would be insane. I'd probably bet the house on it. I would liquidate my 401k to bet Coastal in the week if there was plus 220.
I'd be pretty close there with you. This one we're not going to talk about, but it made the list because it's a backyard brawl. West Virginia at Pitt takes place tomorrow. West Virginia was listed at minus 335 there. I'm not sure if that's high enough. The next game that I want to go to is Georgia Southern, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech would be minus 175 in this matchup. I would play the Yellow Jackets here because I think that their pitching has been improved this season. They had a weaker ACC schedule, so they're kind of buoying out to where their point would be in the ACC. But I think this is a talented lineup that is getting healthy at the right time this year. I would probably land on the Yellow Jackets side here tomorrow, Johnny.
Yeah, if it's 190 or less, I think it's playable for G-Tech. They've been struggling a little bit. They need to get their groove back. And Georgia Southern's not really that good this year. This is a game that you can't afford to look ahead. That's the one concern I would have with the Yellow Jackets. But I think if it's 190 or less, I think you play it.
NC State visits UNC Wilmington. The Wolfpack are listed at minus 133 by the matchup predictor. NC State's in a really interesting spot. They just got swept at Miami, but they're playing for a regional host. So I believe that they are going to show up willing and wanting to win this game. It's just a matter of what Wilmington's going to pitch in a midweek. The offense isn't very powerful for the Seahawks this season, even though they do have Tanner Thatch over there. It's been a down year for him and the boys. But I'd be looking at NC State, but they haven't. They've left a lot to be desired in midweeks this season, Johnny.
Yeah, I'd go to NC State.
Alabama at Troy. Very solid matchup here. Troy's the only team in the country that hasn't lost on a weekend, but Sundays and midweeks have been the question mark for this team, mainly because of the pitching depth. Adam Felinsky, my guy who was previously at Eastern Michigan, down there, has been the midweek starter for most of the season for Troy. They're plus 165 at home. That's typically when you want to back mid-majors and midweeks, is when they're plus money hosting a big brother. Troy wouldn't be a bad look, because Alabama has been questionable to me offensively lately. And the pitching staff also has some holes in that bullpen when it gets to the nitty gritty. So Johnny, Alabama minus 165 or Troy plus 165?
Troy plus money at home, no doubt, because like you said, this is also a big situation for them, because they've been a really good team this year, but they're trailing Coastal in the Sun Belt. And unless it's an epic collapse by the Chants, they're not going to catch them in the Sun Belt. And Troy's got to do everything they can to claw and scratch and potentially fight their way for a regional host. While it's very unlikely that they get one, these can only help you if you win them. And I think at this point, Alabama, their hosting chances, considering where they are in the SEC right now, the fact that they don't really have many quality wins, it's a tough look for them. I think I like Troy here, especially plus money at home.
Creighton and Nebraska play each other tomorrow in one of the more interesting games, in-state rivalry. Creighton has strung together a good stretch lately in Ed Service's final year as head coach for the Blue Jays. And Nebraska, albeit it hasn't been the greatest year for them, they just got their preseason closer back. He took a 100-mile-an-hour plus fastball to the face, like the second or third weekend of the year.
He went nuts too coming off the mound.
He finished the outing,
epic, honestly.
But
it was.
Yeah,
epic, he was like fucking going crazy.
He returned. He threw against Kansas State in the midweek, so I'd be interested to see who Nebraska starts, because Nebraska won that Kansas State game. It was a low-scoring matchup that they ended up walking off the Wildcats in that one. They're back at Haymarket Park hosting the Blue Jays. Johnny, what would you list this price at? Creighton at Nebraska?
I mean, I wouldn't even.
No, I'm not saying we're betting this, but I think it's one of the more interesting games tomorrow.
Maybe Nebraska minus 140, 150. I mean, you get the respect because you're a power conference team. Creighton's a Big East team, so you really don't get that much respect. But chances are I'm not laying anything with Nebraska right now. I like Nebraska. Nebraska was my preseason Big Ten pick, and that all got flushed down the drain when Mason McConaughey got hurt. I think it was the series at ULL. And unfortunately, once that happened, it's not a deep team, but they had good pitching. And, when you lose your ace, you're in trouble. But when you lose an ace that's legitimately had a shot to be the best pitcher in the conference, you're done. You're done.
Yeah, tough to come back from. The offense isn't anything special. We knew that to a point, like with us liking Nebraska in the preseason. The pitching staff was strong. I wouldn't even say that's been a big issue for this team. It's been more of the offense. But
we knew that. That was like you said, that was the handicap. And first of all, you lose a guy that is maybe the best pitcher in the conference, if not one of like the 2 or 3 best pitchers. You lose a guy that is going to give you a chance to win every single time he takes the mound. And you almost forfeit one game off the bat every weekend. And that has a lasting effect, because that can be the difference whether you win a series or lose a series, because the ripple effect of having to bring the next guy up to move in to take that spot, and the domino effect can fuck you.
And the final matchup on this Tuesday that I think is going to be really fun, Arizona is at Grand Canyon. And albeit the Lopes might not have the strongest roster that they've had in years past, and they might not be the first place team right now in the WAC, they always threaten the bigger programs in the desert. And if they're plus 154 tomorrow at home against the Wildcats, might not be a bad look. GCU usually plays really well against these teams.
Yeah, GCU is one of these interesting teams. They don't have a ton of talent, but they are so well coached and they play good baseball. And they have enough talent to the point where they can end up making up the difference. And like I said, dude, I don't think Arizona's that good. I really don't. I think they're – I don't know. I just don't think they're a good team. I think they have some talented players, but it's just not to the level where I would consider them a lock in even a midweek.
That's going to wrap up the show. I mean, more to come. These weekend recap episodes are going to be better. I don't plan on going anywhere for the final 2 regular season weekends of the year. Regionals, I'll be in Command Center as well. After that, it'll get interesting. So the quality of this, I think, will go up as I get to be able to deliver just as much, analysis as Johnny does. He does really well with this in this platform. I think he's great, but Johnny and I are on the same page. When the calendar turns to May and June, the college baseball experience becomes what I think is the best platform for college baseball gambling out there. We dominate the space. During conference tournament, am committed to everyday shows, picks, as long as there are betting odds there. I'm hoping and praying that there will be come that time of the year. Regionals, super regionals, every single day we will be here, and the recaps will be quality. As Johnny delivered quality, I will up my game for these recaps. Thursday pick show will happen on Wednesday night, possibly. Depends on my schedule. It might be wait and see. Friday pick show will be on Thursday, and then weekend recap will probably be Sunday night, early Sunday night, is how we're scheduling it out right now. 3 episodes right now, and then when we get to NCAA tournament time and conference tournament time, it'll be close to every day, folks. There were some weeks where we're going 5 episodes, delivering quality. I appreciate Johnny's time. Johnny, if you want to plug anything, go ahead. They can follow you at _JohnnyVTV on Twitter. But what are you up to this week?
Facts. Yeah, we're always on my RotoWire grind, putting out a lot of college baseball content, about 4 articles per week, touching on futures, all different kinds of weekend series. And as the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament ramps up, I'll be putting out more of it. Check out my podcast, Breaking Bet, every Thursday night. We're going to be adding more shows as well with Breaking Bet. And follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV, putting out all the picks. We're hot right now, capped off nearly a 4-unit weekend after a 6-unit weekend the previous weekend. So we're pushing about 14 units up these last 3 weeks. So we're catching fire at the right time.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want to catch fires. Final 2 weeks of the year, we're here. This is everything that we look forward to come November, December, January. We're in that time of the season where all the margins get so much thinner and the games get bigger. Johnny and I are on the same page. Everything that he was texting me, I'm like, yep. Let's make it happen here with SGPN and the college baseball experience. If you're looking to follow the show on Twitter and social media, it's not just baseball, it's football, basketball. It's TCE on SGPN. If you're looking to follow me and all my adventures that I have planned for the postseason. It is at Noah B77 _. This has been the College Baseball Experience. And with that, we bid you adieu.